Hey guys, CBHolo1 here. Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to take apart a pre-war or post-war era steam locomotive built by Lionel. Now I'm going to start with this disclaimer. If you are planning to use this video as a tutorial to take apart a steam locomotive like this, watch the video all the way through first before you start taking it apart. After you watch it once, you can go back and watch it step by step, but do not try taking apart this locomotive step by step the first time you watch this video. The last thing you want to do is get yourself into a situation that you cannot get yourself out of, and you are unable to put the locomotive back together. So with that out of the way, let's go over the tools I'm going to be using. So the first thing I have is a pair of standard pliers. I'm going to be using this to take off these little bolts that are holding on the drive rods. If you have a tool that is a socket that is meant for these kinds of bolts, use that, because that will work a lot better than just using a pair of pliers. I don't have a hex bolt socket, so I'm going to be using pliers. Second thing I have is a pair of needle nose pliers. This is very good for getting things out of small spaces and taking apart like little things that you can't reach. And this will definitely come in handy when you're trying to take out screws that are recessed like deeply into the locomotive, because you really don't want to take out the screw and have it fall into the locomotive and you can't get the screw out. But you know, if you're taking it apart anyway, then you just kind of keep going. But if you're not trying to take it apart all the way and you lose the screw on the inside, then you're going to have issues. The last thing I have is the obvious. I have a set of screwdrivers here. You do not need these exact screwdrivers. You do need screwdrivers that are somewhat long and can fit into somewhat tight spaces. They do not have to be these. If they can fit into the spaces that you're trying to take out, you can use it. Alright, so I'm going to start by taking off the rear truck here. Ordinarily, I would start by taking both the front and rear trucks off, just for cleanliness. However, if you look at the underside of this locomotive, this is not a screw, so this doesn't really come off easily. You may think you can take this screw out, and you can just pop the truck off, because this is a plate. The problem is this isn't a plate. This is the entire headlight assembly mounted to the frame. So if you're taking these screws out, keep in mind you're unscrewing the entire headlight assembly on the inside of the engine. On the back, to take out the rear truck, there's 3 screws. We have a screw here, that's the most visible. There's a screw up here, and then there's a screw on roughly the same position in the opposite side of the locomotive. So this screw is what's going to allow the bottom part of the truck to come off. These top 2 screws are what's going to allow the drawbar to come out. Now the drawbar goes through this little slot here, so to get this out, you kind of unscrew that and then just finagle this thing through this cast-in slot, and because it's cast in, there's no screws, so it's not exactly the easiest thing in the world, but we'll manage. Alright, so I'm going to try and do this in a way that still allows you guys to see it. It's a bit difficult to get my hands in there and unscrew things while still allowing the camera to actually see what I'm doing. So we're going to give it a shot here. So I'm going to start by taking out these 3 screws to detach the rear truck. So they can be a little bit stiff. Sometimes if you use pliers and you grab the edge of the screwdriver, it basically just makes it a longer handle, which makes it a little bit easier to turn when the screws are really tight. I have to use that all the time on these screws because these screws don't come out very easily. These are pre-loosened because I filmed the last shot and then realized that the screws were on there basically like they were impossible to get off. So I pulled a lot of tricks, got them out, and put them back in so that I can have this shot done properly. So now that we have this screw, these 2 screws out from the underside, and I don't know where the camera's focusing, and we have this screw out from the kind of front part of the rear truck, the entire thing has basically come off. So all we have to do is pull the drawbar through and out, and we have separated the rear truck from the frame. So normally the next thing I would do is take out the screw that is located up on the top somewhere. This is usually found in post-war locomotives. So like if I brought up one of my post-war locomotives, there's either a screw like on the firebox or there's a screw up here. That screw is attaching this outer boiler cast piece to the motor on the inside. There's a couple other parts that are attaching it that we're going to get to because they're attaching this locomotive in the same way. But if your locomotive has a screw up here, up on top, take that out because that's part of what's going to be holding it down to the motor. As a demonstration, I have the 2035 here. This is that screw I was talking about. So they're in a bunch of different places depending on the train that you have. On the 2035 it happens to be here. So you would take this screw out and then continue on your merry way, taking out the rest of the stuff that we're going to take out on the 1666. Now, before we go much further, I'm going to point out that you will see in the back of the screen a bunch of pieces kind of start stretching out along the back of the table. What I do when I take apart these locomotives is I put the parts in the placement that they came out of in the locomotive. So I started with the locomotive pointing to the left. So I'm going to imagine that the locomotive is sitting here, and we're making basically an exploded diagram in real life. So I have the screws that we're holding on this top plate on their sides, respectively, and I have that center screw up in front near the hole that it came out of. That is my way of organizing these things so that I can remember how they go back together. However you do it is up to you. Just make sure you have some kind of system that doesn't let you forget where the parts go. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is take off all this drive gear over here. Now you can take out the drive rod, the main drive rod, and the way you would do that is you would remove this hex screw here and this hex screw here. So you would do that with either your hex socket or the pliers. I'm going to take it off for the purposes of this video in case somebody is watching this video to see how they would replace this drive rod. I'm also going to be taking out everything else, but note you do not need to take off the main drive rod if you are just trying to take the shell off the locomotive, because this main drive rod is just connected to the wheels, which is in the motor assembly, which you will see when I take the shell off. Alright, so now the fun begins. I get to try and manipulate this to take these things off. This is going to be very difficult to show on camera, so I'm not really even going to try. But all I do is I just grab the bolt, hold the wheels so they don't rotate, and twist the pliers around without stripping the bolt, ideally, until you get it to the point where it's quote-unquote finger tight, where you can loosen it by hand, basically. Once you get it to that point, you just finish removing the screw by hand. If I could ever get to that point. There we go. So now I can take it out by hand. So again, as I said earlier, I'm going to place this up in my little kind of exploded diagram area, in the position where I'm taking it out of. So I'm going to do that same process for the other 3 bolts to take off the main drive rod. Alright, so there are 3 screws left to take off the rest of the drive rods. The first one is here. This is what's holding on all this stuff. So it's kind of important to remember the order that these go in, because if you put these in the wrong order, like let's say you put this main drive rod in before you put in this washer, all of a sudden this drive rod's coming in at like a massive angle and the locomotive's not going to be very happy. So I usually take a picture of it. I don't have to do that because I'm taking a video, but I take a picture of it just to remember the order. And then also this crank here is kind of important to remember where its position goes, or its position is, because if you put it in too much of the wrong position, like let's say I have it angled like over here right now, the whole thing's going to bind up and it's not going to be very happy. So it's important to remember where that goes. Some of them have latches, so they kind of like snug into the spot they're supposed to be in. Others don't. Just play it safe, take a picture of it. So the other two screws are under here. This is what's holding on the main side drive rod here, and it's mainly holding on this piece, which once you take this out, you have to slide it out of the cylinders. And then there's this screw, which is holding on the smaller side rods. So let's go take those off. Alright, so I'm going to take off this side piece first. Just unscrew it. Doesn't take much. There's the screw. I'm going to go put that with its place on the exploded view diagram. The washer already fell out, so I'm going to go put that over there. Now the main drive rod will come off, so I can put that in its place. Sorry, I'm just trying to be neat behind the scenes. And now these two rods have come off. So I can take this screw out, which I can do with this screwdriver. And again, sometimes it's helpful to have like needle nose pliers to be doing this, because things are small and my hands aren't steady. So there we go. And then we can slide this piece out. And then the last one is this piece up here, which we can unscrew. It's going to look more like a pin than anything else. So that's what it looks like. Put that down and pull it out and set it aside. So in an attempt to make it easier to show you guys what I'm going to be doing next, I'm going to show you guys how to take out the headlight, which is this plate. As I said in the beginning of the video, this plate is basically the entire headlight assembly. Now on some locomotives it's much harder to get these out than others. This one it's pretty easy to do because you just unscrew these two screws and you pull it out. Some of them you kind of have to wiggle it around on the inside, and it might be easier to take off the front part, which is possible on some locomotives but not on others. I haven't actually found one where I've needed to take off the front part, but I know that they're out there. But I'm going to take out the headlight assembly now. Again, it's just these two front screws here. Put that where it goes. And then back screw. Put that where it goes. And now the headlight assembly will pull out. Now do not tug it out because there is a wire that goes in here. The easiest way to remove that wire or get it out of the way is to just pull the headlight out. And now the whole front truck has come off. And we have the headlight here. Just be careful not to smash the bulb when you're taking it out or putting it back in. So funny enough, because I only have one light above me, you still can't see the thing I was trying to show you. So there's two screws underneath of the cylinders. There's one here, just take my word for it, and there's one here. So these two screws are what hold on this whole front piece here, and it's kind of necessary to take them out to take out the motor, because the motor is actually slotted into these two blocks. So all we have to do is remove these two screws, and the front will come off. So let's do that. And there you go. Alright, so if you wanted to take the whole front assembly off, you'd have to bend these little ends of the handrails up, because right now the handrails are the only thing that's holding this in place. So to take the motor out, there's one more screw. You can't see it because darkness and my camera doesn't like that. But there's a screw up in here that's holding one of the top braces of the motor frame to the shell. So all we have to do is take out that screw and the whole motor assembly will come out. So let's do that. Alright, so now I can pull the headlight out from that main front piece, the headlight through, and there we now have the shell completely separated from the motor and the light. So a couple of key things that you're looking at. Right here is the automatic E-unit. This is what allows the train to change direction when you toggle power. It is important to know that when you put this thing back together, that this lever is actually going through the slot in the top of the shell that it was originally in. If you miss, you can either have the lever bent all the way around and down, or you can have it bent forward, and either scenario is not good, because in the second scenario, you have to bend it back. In the first scenario, you put the whole engine back together, go to start it, realize the lever's not there, which means the E-unit's locked out, and you can't change direction or anything like that, so you have to pull the whole locomotive back apart again, and fix the lever. I speak from experience. So here is the motor housing. So in here is the main, I don't know exactly what to call it. It's a drum thing that spins, that turns gears, that makes the thing move. Here are the brushes, and here are the screws that take off the front plate, and the screws that take off the back plate. So I'm going to show you guys how to take this off if you want to do some servicing. So let's get into that. Alright, so we're going to take off the side with the brushes first. So that's just these two screws. Get my screwdriver in there. Unscrew that. Then unscrew this. And then I have to be careful because there are parts that will come out of this. Take the front plate off. And here are the brushes. So there's one brush, and there's the other brush. And then here's the plate, and those springs that you saw on the back slide into those two holes that are here and here, and that's what pushes it up against the motor so that the thing turns. So my locomotive is in pretty good shape, so I don't really need to service it, but if I were to be servicing it, what I would do is I would clean the face of this drum here. I would oil this axle, and I would clean the faces of the brushes, just so that we get a cleaner electrical contact between the brushes and the motor. I would also oil this side, where this axle is, just to reduce that friction, and I would probably put grease on all the gears that you can see, just to make it run smoother. Alright, so now comes the fun part where we get to put everything back together. So we're going to start with our brush plate. So I'm just going to slide the brushes back in, spring first, and carefully put it back up against the motor so that the brushes don't fall out. And now find your holes, slide your screws in, tighten them down, and now your motor's back together. So now this is the point when your organization really comes in handy, because you may notice as you were taking this apart, not every screw is the same. So we took our screw that was in this slot, in this position, and we're going to flip the shell upside down, and we're going to slide the motor back in. Well, first we're going to put the headlight back through its little slot, like so. And now we're going to put the motor back in, making sure that the little lever for the E-unit actually goes into its slot. And then we can attempt to screw this thing back together. Now I find that this tends to be the most troublesome screw when it's putting it back together, but that time it was pretty simple. So now that screws back in, You didn't have to, but I wedged the front back in the same step. If you want to, you could put in that back screw and do it after the fact, like I just did. Making sure that your headlight is through the front, and then we're going to mount this thing back on. Alright, so now that I'm sure that the motor is snug inside of this front cast piece here with the cylinders, we're going to take our screw, slide one back in, and tighten it down. And then I'm going to take the other screw, and slide that back in without dropping it down into the shell, preferably, and screw that back in. There we go. Make sure both screws are snug. And now this piece is secured back, so next we can put the headlight assembly back in. Alright, so I have the front truck here. So we're going to take the light, and I'm just going to rotate this plate so that it makes it easier to put the light in. We're going to clip the light in, and then rotate the plate back, making sure that that little tab that's there, making sure that the plate is underneath of that, because that's what will keep the front truck on. And then we simply slide it back up into the frame. Make sure that the wires are out of the way of where the screw holes are going to be. Take our screws. That's one screw. And there you go. Now the headlight's back in. So when reassembling this thing, the order that you put the front truck, drive rods, and rear truck back in isn't too important. Now there's the order that you take them out. I just did it in the order that I did because it's how I do things. You do need to make sure, though, that when you put the drive rods back on, you do have your cylinders back in, because otherwise, you know, your drive rods aren't going to have anywhere to slide into. So just to show you that the order isn't super important, I'm going to go put the rear truck back on now. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the drawbar. Just cut the drawbar back through. This is one of the easier drawbars I have to reattach. And then we're going to take this plate and we're going to line the plate up with the holes. So once you get the screw hole lined up, and get your truck out of the way, slide in one of the screws. Hope and pray that it stays. There we go. And screw in one. You can do 2 screws at a time. I do 1 screw at a time because, I don't know, it makes more sense to me to anchor the thing first and then deal with trying to get the other screw. So there we go. Now that we have that in, we can mess with trying to put this screw back into its place. Alright, so this is definitely one of the trickier screws to do because it has to go in that hole in there. There you go. So it has to go in that hole. Now, this screw, you can do this in one of 2 ways. You can line it up and then put the screw in. Or you can do what I'm going to do, where I'm going to slide the screw into the rear truck and then try and get it so that it sits in the hole. This is always the screw that I tend to struggle with the most. But there we go. Now make sure you don't screw it down so far that you strip the threads. On another one of my locomotives, I managed to do that, and it makes it very, very difficult to take apart now. So just be wary of that. But now, we get to put the side rods back on. Now the order you put the side rods back on in is entirely up to you. Just make sure that they all go in the right place. So I'm going to start with this, the smallest one. So I'm going to slide that into its position up top. Slide a little hole into place. Take our pin screw that it uses. We're going to start threading it in by hand just so that it stays, and then I'm going to finish it off with the screwdriver. This is one of those screws that, like, the way that it's designed, you don't have to worry about tightening it down too far. Just make sure you don't tighten it down so much that you can't get it off again. So now that we've done that, we get to put this rod back on. Now, this piece does slide out fully. You're going to want to make sure that when you put it back on, it looks like this. So, here's your rod. This is the way it moves. You need to make sure that it comes up, because, you know, otherwise it's just not going to fit. So we're going to slide that in. And take our screw. And this is going to be a little difficult to show, just because of the way that this thing has to be angled. There we go. So that screw's now in. There we go. Now that I've tightened that down, we got our main two drive rods. So now we're going to put on the main driver and the washer and final screw. Now, just to make my life a little bit easier, I'm going to put on the hex screws first. So I'm going to put down the main drive rod. I'm going to put on the hex screws. This way I'm not dealing with trying to fiddle the hex screws through all the main, or all the secondary rods and whatnot. I'm still trying to learn what all of them are called. You can do the same process when you're taking it apart. You can take off all the secondary rods and whatnot, and then take out these hex screws. I did it first just because it made sense at the time. But once we get it far enough down, we can tighten it down with the pliers, which I'm going to do off camera because it's a pain in the neck. Alright, so now that we've gotten those tightened, we're going to sit the washer in, and I'm going to sit the larger of the secondary rods in, and then I'm going to slide a small rod down through the hole. Now, this locomotive has a little latch on its rod that tells it, or that kind of lets the thing snug into place, which it found its spot right there. So now that kind of just sits in there. So I don't have to worry about fine-tuning it. If it didn't have that latch, I'd have to just keep this screw loose, the screw that I'm putting in now, which will fasten this all together. You keep that loose, you run it for a little bit, just so that it kind of finds the spot where it's most comfortable in, and then go from there. But now that I've got that screw in, we now have all the side rods on this side put into place. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, off camera. And there you have it. The locomotive is now fully reassembled and ready to run. It's a good idea to test to make sure that all the rods spin smoothly before you plan to run it intensely. So definitely do some trial runs. Like, if you're going to try and repair a locomotive and then right off the workbench run it for somebody, maybe don't, but make sure you test these things just to make sure the whole thing doesn't break and then you have to fix it again. But anyway, there you go. That is how you disassemble and reassemble a Lionel post-war or pre-war era steam locomotive. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you found this helpful if you guys are planning to make repairs on a locomotive like this. But anyway, I am CW Hollow 1, and have a good day, or maybe good night in your case. See ya.